right, lesson 6, order of operations. Now, we talked a little bit about this in the last lesson when we were doing exponents, because we also were encountering adding and subtracting questions as well. Now, the order of operations are very important because they set certain rules that everybody around the world is going to follow. That means that regardless of your language of origin or your culture, because you're following these order of operation rules, if you're in France or Egypt or Nairobi or Russia or Antarctica or Canada, if you're following these rules, you're going to get the same answer. Okay, so it becomes very important to follow order of operations. And they are kind of our baseline for our mathematical procedures. So the rules, and you'll often hear the phrase BEDMAS, right? Are, dun, 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 and I'm going to actually delete this and color code it. So brackets and exponents, okay? So we do our brackets and our exponents first, regardless of where they are in the phrase. Then we do division and multiplication, and you'll notice I'm coloring them the same because these are interchangeable. They work from left to right. So, and that's why some people say PEMDAS, because they're saying parentheses there, but it's the same as BEDMAS. And the thing is it could easily have been BEMDAS instead of BEDMAS. And the same thing happens for adding and subtracting. They are interchangeable. They work from left to right. Okay, so I like to treat them as little sets. Okay, so first we always do our brackets. Now, important to note, it's not always obvious. For example, the numerator and denominator of a complex fraction might have brackets around it that we don't see. With exponents, we also need to watch the signs and see about where there's a negative sign. Okay, we talked about what happens when the base of an exponent has a negative sign, whether it's in brackets or not. Okay, so let's do some examples. So, looking at question number 1. According to BEDMAS, we're going to start with the brackets. So we're going to do the brackets first. So, and you'll notice what I do is I like to write down everything in the line below that is not changing. So the 2 stays the same. 7 minus 4, that's like plus a negative 4. That would be equal to 3 plus 6. Okay? Now the next thing we're going to do is we're not going to write a red line through it. We are going to do the multiplication. Okay? So doing the multiplication, 2 times 3 is 6 plus 6. And then our last step, we're going to do the addition. 6 plus 6 equals 12. Okay? Step by step. And you don't always have to write all the steps out, but I like to. Okay? Let's look at the next one. We're looking for brackets and exponents for first, so that's going to be right here. So we're going to do that first. So let's write everything out. 3 plus 2 times 4 to the power of 2 is 16 minus 7. The next thing I'm going to do, I've got addition and multiplication, so I'm going to do that multiplication. So then I'll go 3 plus, 2 times 6 is 32 minus 7. Okay, now I can add and subtract from left to right. So 3 plus 32, I can do that next. Is 30, it's like a ghost pen. 35 minus 7, 35 minus 7 equals 28. Okay, all right, step by step by step. So here we did exponents. Actually, let me write it in a different color. Here we did exponents, then multiplication, then addition, and then subtraction. Okay? And this was from left to right. Okay, let's do another one. Oh, that's number 1 and 2. All right, so next on our list, we have an exponent. We're good. Exponent, and we have brackets. Okay, so either one of those can go first. It's not going to make a difference. And we can actually do both of them at the same time because they aren't going to affect each other. So 3 squared is 9 divided by 3 times 2 plus 1 is 3. Now we're going to, and this is where it makes a big difference. Now we have to multiply and divide from left to right. So if I'm looking from left to right, the first thing I see is the division, not the multiplication. Now a bunch of you are saying, but Miss, isn't that brackets there around the 3? It is. But remember, this is just another way of writing 9 divided by 3 times 3. Right? That's just another way of writing it. So if we write it like that, we can see that this is what happens first. If we don't do it this way, we're going to get a different answer. Okay? So 9 divided by 3 is 3. Times 3. 3 times 3, I can do that, is 9. If we didn't do that and we multiplied first, we would get 9 divided by 9, which equals 1, which is not the correct answer. So be really careful, folks, when you see things like this. It is the equivalent of that. It's a very different bracket than a bracket that is around operations. Okay? All right. Now in this one, we have some brackets, we have some exponents, and we have a subtraction. So we can do the brackets first and then deal with the exponent. That's going to make our life simple. So in the brackets here, 5 minus 2 is 3 squared minus 2 plus 7 is 9 squared. Now I'm going to want to do those exponents first. 3 squared, well, let's just highlight what we're doing. We're going to do these exponents first before that subtraction. 3 squared is 9 minus 9 squared is 81. Now this is like plus and negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And we find the difference, and it would be 72. Okay? All right. It's good practice with order of operations. During the pandemic, there's all these people, friends of mine, posting online puzzles, and a lot of them had to do with following the order of operations. And if you didn't do it, you got the wrong answer. And then, somebody could be quite smug about you not getting the right answer. Now, when we see something like this on the next one, even though they're not written in, there are little invisible brackets around the top and the bottom of a fraction. Okay, so we're going to solve each separately, the top and the bottom, and wait till the end to reduce the fraction. Now within those, I have an exponent here I can do on the top, and I have a multiplication on the bottom. So let's see what happens. So on the top, if I do that exponent, I'll get 4 plus 9. And on the bottom, 3 times 5 is 15. And it's plus a negative 2. Now I can do these additions on the top and the bottom. So I can simplify those. So when I do them, 4 plus 9 is 13. And 15 plus negative 2 is 13. 13 divided by 13, because that's what a fraction is, or if I'm reducing it to lowest terms, is equal to 1. Okay, you wouldn't think to look at that original question that it was equal to 1, but it is. Okay, again, we have our fractions here, so we're going to pretend there are visible brackets around the top and the bottom. And within those brackets, I'm going to do the multiplication up here first, and then the division. Okay, so 4 times 0 is 0, plus 7 plus 2. And 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now, I don't have anything left to do on the bottom, but now I can add straight across from left to right on the top. So 0 plus 7 plus 2 is 9, and 9 over, and I still have my 3 on the bottom. My last step, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay. Now these are getting more complicated, but at any point during a video, if you want to pause, try it yourself, then play the video and see if you got it right, you can check. You can try and do that. Now, here's something quite complicated. We're going to start with our brackets, right? Everything else we'll rewrite out exactly the way it is. 18 divided by 3 plus 72 divided by 12 plus, here, 4 plus 2 is 6 squared. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with this exponent. Again, I'm going to write all this out. 18 divided by 3 plus 72 divided by 12 plus 6 squared is 36. Now, I have in here, I've got 2 divisions. I can do this division and this division. I'm going to leave the plus signs in place. 18 divided by 3 is 6 plus 72 divided by 12 is 6 plus 36. So now I've got all additions, so I can just add straight across from left to right. So 6 plus 36 equals 48. Now, some people like to put equal signs here to make sure you're adding up the statement. Okay, our last question here. So we have brackets and we have exponents. Now within the brackets, we have exponents, so we can do those first before we add them. So in the brackets, 3 squared is 9 plus 6 to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 equals 1. So 6 to the power of 0 is 1 divided by, and we have 5 to the power of 1, which is just 5, right? Okay. Now we're going to, our next step we're going to do is do the brackets before we do our division. So 9 plus 1 is 10 divided by 5. And finally, we can do that division. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that's your tip-off or your practice. I'm going to roll it back if you want to pause the video just to write down anything, any of the work. If I went too fast, you can pause, get that. Those are all those examples. Again, here you can pause, get those. The thing with order of operation is every question is different. So these rules, these order of operation rules, are BEDMAS, if you will, is what helps us. And you can have BEDMAS written out. You can write this on a piece of paper, keep it handy, just to help you do these. Now you've got some practice questions to do. Follow the rules. It's your best way of approaching.